go people. So I know exams are quite near and you might be in this very different zone. I understand that you might be worried about where to study from, what to study, should I sleep, should I just take some rest, or there might be a lot of questions up there. But rest assured, everything will be fine. Just give you 100%. Please take adequate amount of rest as well. Do not drain your body. Okay, you have to make sure that you are treating your body like your best friend. Okay, so I know you don't treat your best friends really good, but you have to treat your body really good. Okay, because this will be the only thing that will be staying up with you for a long time. So yes, welcome to solving sample paper 9 of biology, and today is day 86. So without further ado, let's get into the questions. So total number of questions that we might be solving today, we'll be giving you 30 marks. And out of what? So basically, the whole science subject is out of 80 marks, and 30 marks is carried by biology itself because it has huge number of chapters, that is 5, which is why it has a bit more weightage than physics and chemistry, which is why you should be prioritizing biology for sure, and it will be definitely giving you marks if you write in proper points and underline the important things. Yeah? Copied? Yes, roger that. So section A consists of 1 marker question. First we'll deal with MCQs and then we'll deal with assertion and reason question. So which of the following statement is or are true about the human heart? So right atrium receives oxygenated blood from the lungs through pulmonary artery. So right atrium receives oxygenated blood from the pulmonary artery, my dear children. So let me just draw out certain things. So you have a left atrium, you have left ventricle, you have right atrium, and you have right ventricle, right? Now you have lungs also. The lungs provides oxygenated blood to the left atrium, my dear children, with the help of a vein. Okay, and this vein, since it is between lungs and heart, you will call this vein as pulmonary. Whenever the lungs comes in between, you just attach the pulmonary word there. Now pulmonary vein gives oxygenated blood over here. This oxygenated blood will be going to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle it will go to the entire body. Now the one that carries the blood towards the heart is always a vein, and the one that carries away from the heart will always be an artery, and this artery's name is aorta, my dear children. Now the body receives oxygenated blood. It was having oxygenated blood, right? The body will give back carbon dioxide. Okay, so body takes in, all the cells of our body will be taking in oxygen because oxygen is required for respiration to happen. Now what will it give back? It will give back carbon dioxide. So now this carbon dioxide rich blood goes to the right atrium, not the ventricle, but it goes to the atrium first. Okay, what is it? It is deoxygenated blood. And now I told you the one that carry blood towards the heart will always be what? A vein. So this is also a vein, and the name of this particular vein is what? Vena cava or vena cava. Okay, what do you call it? Vena cava or vena cava. From the right atrium it will go to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle the blood will be going to the lungs again for getting oxygenated. Lungs is where the oxygen is getting back. Okay, you get the oxygen back. So the deoxygenated blood will get oxygenated in the lungs only, and it is carrying the blood away from the heart, this particular vessel. So away as in you're talking about artery, my dear children. Sorry, artery is the one that carries the blood away from the heart, and always, as I said, lungs is involved. So what can I name it? I'll call it pulmonary artery. Cool. Now right atrium receives oxygenated blood. Does it ever receive oxygenated blood, my dear children? No, it always receives deoxygenated blood. The left side of our heart will be receiving oxygenated. So this is entirely wrong. Now left atrium transfers oxygenated blood to the left ventricle, which sends it to various parts of the body. So left atrium transfers oxygenated blood to left ventricle, and from where it goes to the body part. So this is correct. So I'll say B is correct. Now right atrium receives deoxygenated blood through vena cava from upper and lower body. That is also correct. Okay, so right atrium which is there, it will get from vena cava, and vena cava has 2 parts. Okay, one is superior vena cava which will collect blood from the upper body, and inferior vena cava which is collecting blood from the lower body. Now right atrium receives deoxygenated blood through vena cava from upper and lower body. This is correct. Left atrium transfers oxygenated blood to the aorta, which sends it directly. This is not correct. So I will say B and C is correct. So for B and C to be correct, C has to be the correct option. Okay. Cool. Next question. Select out of the following a gland which does not occur as a pair in the human body. So ovary, if you see, females have 2 ovary, my dear children. 1 month, every one ovary will be releasing 1 ovum. So for suppose this ovary release 1 ovum this month, next month this ovary will be releasing an ovum. Testis also, you have a pair of testes. Adrenal glands. Okay, adrenal glands are above your kidney. And you have a pair of them. They are triangular shaped glands and you have a pair of them above your kidney. So they are also paired. What are you left with? You have pituitary gland. So pituitary gland is not the one that has pair. Instead it has 2 lobes. So you call it anterior and posterior lobe of pituitary. But it is not a paired organ or a gland. So what can I say? That this is the answer. This is the one that does not occur in pair in human body. A, pituitary is the answer. Cool. Next question. In human respiratory system, when a person breathes in, the position of the ribs and the diaphragm will be. Okay, put your hand like this. Now you try to breathe in. When you breathe in, you might be feeling that the chest which is there over here, it is expanding, my dear children. So the ribs which are there, they will also expand. Why? Because we need more air, we need a cavity to be a bit larger so that more air can be coming inside. So the rib cage, it will be expanded. What about the diaphragm? The diaphragm usually, for example, this is the lungs and you have the diaphragm right up here in the form of a dome shaped thing. This diaphragm which is there, it will be moving down to form something like this because you need more space. So it will be flattened. Okay, it will be flattened. So lips will be lifted up, whereas diaphragm it will be flattened. That is the case. So lifted ribs and curved dome shaped diaphragm, no. Lifted ribs and flattened diaphragm, yes. It is not diaphragm. I'm so sorry. Okay, it is diaphragm. So this is the answer. Lifted ribs and flattened diaphragm. So this goes the answer. Now, identify the mode of asexual reproduction in the following organism. Fragmentation, multiple fission, budding, binary fission. What is this organism? First of all, you have to identify the organism. So, this organism which has tentacles and everything together, you call this as hydra, my dear children. Now, hydra is a coral which you find. Okay. Hydra, where do you find it? In the water bodies. Hydra is a multicellular organism. It is a multicellular organism and basically it can produce sexually also. But over here, asexual mode of reproduction is shown where it has a small outgrowth like this, as you can see. Well, this is a new bud. Okay, this is a new bud. Okay, this is hydra which is being formed. So over here you see this. It will grow in size, it will have its own tentacles and then later it will move apart from its body. So this process is known as budding, my dear children. This is known as budding. So the asexual reproductive mode in the case of hydra is budding. Next, a cross made between 2 pea plants produces 50% tall plants and 50% short plants. The gene combination of the parental pea plant must be. Now, it has to be made sure that 50% of the progenies will be tall and 50% should be dwarf. Now, I'll tell you one thing. Tall, okay, yes, you'll get. For dwarfness, you should be needing 2 small t's coming together, 2 recessive alleles coming together. Now, if both the parents do not have these 2 recessive alleles, if both the parents do not have the recessive alleles, it cannot be producing what? To 50% dwarf plants. So I can immediately be removing this and this one because over here I have 2 capital T, here also have 2 capital T. Anyways, this parent is not going to contribute. Now, I am left with these 2 options. Because one gamete you get from one parent, another chromosome you get from another parent, these chromosomes come together to form what? A condition like this, right? That's when you get to understand whether it's tall or dwarf and things like that. So you have to get it from one parent, from another parent also you have to get it. Now if you want them 50% dwarf and 50% tall, I feel that one parent should be completely like this. Then only we'll get this. Let's solve. So suppose this is the condition, capital T. Okay, now whatever I do, my dear children, this capital T will be coming in combination with this guy. Let's see. At least 50% of them would not be, I'll show you. So, capital T is there, small t is there, capital T is there, small t is there. Suppose this and this comes together, I get capital T, capital T. This and this comes together, I get capital T, small t. This and this again, capital T, small t. This and this, I get small t, small t. So, over here, capital T is there, small t is there. This is dwarf, What about this? This is capital T, this is also capital T. This will be tall. These three of them will be tall, one is dwarf. But according to us, 50% should be tall and 50% should be dwarf. For that, so that means this is not possible. What are we left with? We are left with this capital T, small t, small t, small t. So the condition is something like this, my dear children. I get two of them to be dwarf and two of them to be tall. Why tall? Because this is dominant. So this becomes the answer. I'm so sorry, I have a cold, which is why I'm cracking up a bit. Yeah, so this becomes your answer for the question. Now, assertion. Human female has a perfect pair of sex chromosomes. Do human females have a perfect pair of sex chromosomes? Yes, they do have two X chromosomes which are similar in shape and size and everything. So they have a perfect pair of sex chromosomes, that is true. Reason. Sex chromosomes contributed by the human male in the zygote decides the sex of the child. Now that is not a reason that explains this, but is this statement correct or false? Okay, sex chromosomes contributed by the human male in the zygote decides the sex of the child. Is it? Yes. Why? Because the females will always contribute X and X. Whatever you do, it will only contribute X, my dear children. But the male, it can produce either X or Y. Suppose this and this comes together, you get XX. Suppose this and this comes together, you get XY. So obviously, on what chromosome is passed from the male's end decides what is the sex of the child. So this statement is correct, but it is not the correct explanation for assertion. So I'll say both A and R is correct, but R is not the correct explanation of A. B is the correct answer for this. Cool? Easy? Next. Oh, there was only one assertion reason question. Okay. Photosynthesis takes place in the leaves and the food prepared by it reaches other parts of the plant. Name the process involved and explain it. So my dear children, how do you explain it? Photosynthesis, it takes place in the leaves, right? Obviously the formation of food takes place in the leaves because leaves have a large amount of chlorophyll pigments which is responsible for capturing the sunlight and things like that, right? Now the food which is made, it reaches the other parts of the plant. How? Because we have a system for transferring it, and this is known as phloem, my dear children. What is it? It is phloem. Okay, phloem is a part of a vascular bundle. So we have two tissues, we have phloem and xylem as vascular bundle tissues. Phloem is responsible for transport of food, whereas xylem is responsible for transport of water. Now, the method in which the food is being transported through phloem, you call this process as translocation. What do you call? You call this process as translocation. And as I said, phloem is involved. So suppose phloem cells, no, they have another group of cells combining them, and these are known as companion cells. Companion cells. And this will be another group of cells where the food is made. Okay. And this is where I have to transport my content. So this is the source and this is the sink. So here food is made and to the roots I have to transport, suppose. So what is done is that basically the food is being, first of all, the food is being made in the form of glucose, but this glucose is converted to sucrose. Why? Because if glucose is transported, it will quickly go and react with other sugars, other things and things like that and form something else while going around. Okay. So instead of that, it is converted to a non-reducing sugar which is known as sucrose. Now this sucrose is exported from here to here and then it is exported into the sieve tube cells. Okay, these are sieve tube cells which you have over here. It is exported like this. So suppose you have much amount of sucrose. Still more amount of sucrose is being exported over here by expending a lot of ATP, by producing a lot of energy also. Not you producing, by using a lot of energy, this has been done. And what do you call this process as? You call this process as active transport. Active transport. So in short, I am saying the sucrose, the food which is made, okay, it is told to go into the sieve tube element or sieve tube cell of the phloem tube, even if it's more in there. Okay, and how do you do it? It's like I'll spend money on it, but anyhow this has to move towards this side. This is known as active transport, where you are spending a lot of energy into it. Now what happened? You have so much sucrose over here, my dear children. That means basically the amount of solute is way too much. The amount of solute is way too much. Now you need solvent. So the xylem fibers which are running, xylem vessels which are running over here, which has water, no? Xylem vessels will be having water over here. This water will be moving from here to here. Why? Because here, as you see, the solute amount is way too much. So you need to balance it by taking in lots of solvent. So solvent is made to be solvent is told to get inside over here. And what happens now? So you have solvent over here, you also have sucrose over here. So there is a pressure difference. Here, if you see, the turgor pressure will be way too much. The amount of pressure that will be put on the walls will be way too much. Whereas on the other areas of the plant, it will be way too less. So now things will be moving from a region of high pressure to a region of lower pressure. So all this thing that you see over here will be moving downwards or upwards or whatever way you want. It is a multidirectional movement, bidirectional way. Not multidirectional, you call it bidirectional. The movement of food in the phloem is bidirectional. In the xylem, it is always unidirectional, right? But in the phloem, it is bidirectional. So it can go up, it can go down. Either way it goes. And now suppose it comes down. Okay, suppose it comes down. After it reaches over here, after the food and everything, the sap, you call it phloem sap, everything reaches over here. Things will be moving, sucrose will be moving from here to here and then to the sink where it is stored. Okay, what about the water? The water will be moving back in there to the xylem. This is how things work. But how do you need to explain it? The process is known as translocation. You see like that. What is translocation? It is a movement of food in the form of sucrose from the leaves to other parts of the plant to the phloem. This occurs by active transport using energy, I told you, and the movement is driven by pressure gradient. How is the pressure created? With the help of water and things like that, created in the phloem vessels. So this is how you need to explain this if you are asked for a 2-marker question. If this is asked for a 2-marker question, not you are asked. Oh my God, what happened to my English? Yes? Okay, does it work? So this is how you have to frame. Make sure you're framing like this and you're answering like this. In points, underline what's important. Okay, you cannot make it bold obviously, so you have to underline. Cool? Chalo. Stability of DNA in a species is ensured during sexual reproduction. Justify the statement. So, do you think stability of DNA in a species is ensured during sexual reproduction? Yes, my dear children. How is it made stable? So, thing is, from my mother, I got 23 chromosomes. From my father, I got 23 chromosomes. Together, when these chromosomes came, I have 46 number of chromosomes. Okay, I have 46 number of chromosomes, which is the normal number of chromosomes we all have in all our cells. But suppose, from my father I got 46, from my mother also I got 46, 46 plus 46, 92. Don't you think the amount of DNA has been increased? Do you think it's stable now? No. So, during sexual reproduction, a very important process happens which is known as meiosis, which is a form of cell division, my dear children, where what happens, the number of chromosomes which are there in one particular cell, it is made into half. So, the gametes, basically I am talking about the gametes. The gametes, they undergo meiosis. In this way, if the gamete mother cell has 46, at the end the gamete will be only having 23 number of chromosome. Suppose this 23 came from my father, another 23 will be coming from my mother, and now I have 46 number of chromosome just like another normal cell of my body. That means the DNA stability is being maintained. So, here meiosis plays a major role during sexual reproduction. Now, in asexual reproduction, there is no role like this. There is no formation of gametes and things like, there is no fertilization needed. So, there I cannot expect all this thing to happen. Okay. So, equal DNA from parents in sexual reproduction, each parent gives half of their DNA through gametes. When these combine, the full DNA is restored in the offspring, keeping the species DNA stable. Now, accurate division of DNA. During the formation of gametes, a special process, meiosis, ensures that the DNA is divided properly and without mistakes, helping maintaining the stability of DNA across the generation. So, in sexual reproduction, while making a copy of DNA, everything, and whenever things are done, it's made sure that it is most error-free method that is being used to prepare this. And that is meiosis. Meiosis, there is a regular checkpoints and things like that. It is checked where the cell has a normal set of DNA, number of chromosomes and stuff like that. So, you just have to answer like this, be specific with your points. So, just say, if you're worried about answering like this, just say the stability of DNA is maintained. How? Basically, in sexual reproduction, both the parents are just going to give half their amount of DNA. Okay, and this half amount of DNA, when it combines to form a zygote, it will restore the normal amount of DNA which is there in a normal cell, which is 46 number of chromosome, which makes the species highly stable. Okay, or basically the DNA count in the species highly stable. Because what process is happening? Meiosis is happening, and this is a very error free. This process is made sure to be error free. Obviously it is not completely error free, some mistakes will be obviously there, but you have to say it that way, that it is made sure to make the mistakes really less while this particular process is happening. Cool? Yes, I'm not able to talk a lot. Section C, 3 marker. Now, give reasons for the following. Alveoli in the lungs are richly supplied with blood capillaries. So, why do you think alveoli in the lungs are richly supplied with blood capillaries, my dear children? So, suppose this is the alveoli and this is a blood capillary that we are having. What happens is that this particular blood capillaries that is having RBCs will be carrying oxygen, my dear children, and this oxygen has to be diffused from here to here. Yes? No. The thing is there's a small change in the story. So when we breathe in, there is a lot of oxygen that we take in. Now this oxygen has to move down to the RBC. So that is how oxygenation of blood happens. Whereas what is the blood actually bringing? Blood is actually bringing something else which is known as CO2. And this guy should be moving from here to here. So this is the reason why alveoli in the lungs are richly supplied with blood capillaries, because we want the exchange of gases to happen properly. CO2 should be moving from the blood to the lungs, okay, whereas oxygen should be moving from the alveoli to the blood. Okay. Now respiratory pigment in the blood takes up oxygen and not carbon dioxide. Why do you think? What is the respiratory pigment in the blood? The respiratory pigment in the blood is what, my dear children? It is hemoglobin. It is hemoglobin. Now hemoglobin which is there, okay, it takes up oxygen and not carbon dioxide. Do you think so? It takes up oxygen and not carbon dioxide. Why do you think it does so? Yes, it is true. Why? Because hemoglobin has higher affinity for oxygen. Hemoglobin has higher affinity for oxygen than carbon dioxide, which is why this guy is carrying oxygen and not carbon dioxide. Cool. Now the third one, during anaerobic respiration, a 3-carbon molecule is formed as an end product instead of CO2 in human beings. So during anaerobic respiration, that means when oxygen is not there, at this point of time a 3-carbon molecule is produced, is formed as an end product instead of CO2 in human beings. So what happens is that usually we have glucose. This glucose is broken down to pyruvate in the cytoplasm. Now this is common for all type of respiration. Okay, now if it is aerobic respiration, the pyruvate will be getting inside the mitochondria and will undergo lots of division and this and that, and it forms CO2, H2O and ATP. But suppose it is not respiring, the body is not respiring aerobically at this point of time, my dear children, what happens is that the pyruvate stays in the cytoplasm itself and is later converted to something else which is also a 3-carbon compound, and that is known as lactic acid, my dear children. Along with it, it also produces ATP, energy also. So energy is the major thing, but apart from that, lactic acid is also being produced, which is a 3-carbon compound, and this 3-carbon compound, when it accumulates way too much, you get muscle cramps as well. Okay. Yes. Now, name the movements that occur all along the gut in the human digestive system. How do they help in digestion? This is an OR question. No, this is the B part of the question. I'm sorry. Yes. Name the movements that occur all along the gut in the human digestive system. How do they help in digestion? So, the thing that helps in the movement is peristalsis. Okay, this is an involuntary movement, my dear children. It is not under our control. If it was under our control, probably we might have not done it. Yeah. So, peristalsis. So, suppose I don't want my foot to go down. Can I just think about it and I can just stop it? No, I cannot do that. So this is an involuntary action which is not under my control, and you call this movement as peristaltic movement or peristalsis. Now, how do you think it helps in digestion? So it plays a major role in digestion. First thing, it helps in movement. The second thing, in the stomach and all, the peristalsis happen. It basically helps in mixing of food. Okay, it helps in mixing of food. It helps in movement of food, which is why it helps in what? Digestion. Cool. Now, where is bile juice stored in the human body? List 2 roles of the bile juice. Now, bile juice is basically produced by a guy whose name is liver, whereas it is stored with his best friend, that is gallbladder. So, gallbladder which is there, it stores it stores what? Your bladder spelling. Oh my god, what did I do? Okay, anyways. gall bladder stores it, whereas liver produces it. Now, what is the role of bile juice? That is being asked. So, there are two roles of bile juice. Okay, so bile juice, my dear children, it has something that is known as bile salt in it. And bile salts are responsible for emulsification of fat. Emulsification of fat. That means it breaks down bigger fat globules that you can see into smaller fat globules. And what is the exact use of this, ma'am? Basically, if you have smaller fat globules, the enzymes which are going to add on fat, it becomes easy for them to act on it properly. That is the use of what? That is the use of bile salt. So, emulsification is basically breaking down of larger globules into smaller globules, and these globules are being attacked by the enzymes, my dear children. These enzymes, when they act on it, it helps in proper breakdown of fat. Okay. Now, apart from it, there is one more function that that is done by bile salt, and that is to provide an alkaline medium. It provides an alkaline medium. So, the food that comes from our stomach, it is acidic because HCl is being produced, right? Now, it comes down, pancreatic enzymes have to act. Pancreatic enzymes cannot act on an acidic medium. They need an alkaline medium. So, bile juice, okay, which is going to contribute to this particular thing right now, okay. So, bile juice is being released, it goes mixes with the food, and when it mixes with the food, my dear children, it will break them down and do a lot of things over there, and then later the pancreatic enzymes will give out its action. So, at this point of time, the food is already made alkaline and the pancreatic enzymes could easily act on it. So, that is the second point or second usage of bile juice. Now, how do you frame it? I'll show you. I'll show you how to frame all the answers, okay. So, alveoli, why do they have capillaries? To ensure efficient gas exchange. Hemoglobin, why does it carry oxygen and not carbon dioxide more? Because it has higher affinity for oxygen than carbon dioxide, enabling effective oxygen transport. It is not that it does not carry carbon dioxide at all. It carries, but the amount is way too less. Okay. Now, in humans, what is the 3-carbon compound that is being produced? So, anaerobic respiration produces lactic acid due to insufficient oxygen, avoiding complete oxidation to CO2. Okay. Now, movement which is there happening in the body, it is known as peristalsis movement, which involves rhythmic contraction of the digestive tract, helping to push food forward and mix it with the digestive juices for effective digestion. It mixes the food, I told you, in the stomach and all, it mixes the food really well with the enzymes which are there. Digestive juices, as in you are talking about the enzymes. Cool. Now then, bile juice is stored in the gall bladder, my dear children. What is the role? Emulsification of the fat and neutralization of the stomach acid, that is to create an alkaline environment. Same thing that I said. So, you have to write in points, otherwise you are going to lose mark. It won't be looking really good. You know, the teacher who is going to check your paper for the first time, he or she will be looking at your paper as in how clean it is. That's how that is the first impression that you have. So, make sure you are creating a good impression out there. Cool? Okay, fine. Now, 30th question. Explain the events that take place once a sperm reaches the oviduct till it becomes a fetus. Write the role of placenta in pregnancy. So, explain the events that take place once the sperm reaches the oviduct. Okay. The sperm, it reaches the oviduct, and there it will fuse with the egg, and this process is known as fertilization. Cool. And this will be producing zygote, which is a unicellular thing. That means it just has one cell. The zygote will undergo division, What division? Mitotic division. Mitotic division, as in you just want to increase the number of cells over there. So, it undergoes mitotic division and increases number to form what? Embryo. Now, the embryo, it has so many stages. In one stage, which is called as blastocyst stage, this embryo will come and get implanted into the endometrium. It will come, the embryo will roll down from the oviduct and come towards the uterus. So, suppose this is the uterus, my dear children. So, over here you have the oviduct. Here the fusion happened. They made the zygote. Zygote will keep on dividing to form the embryo. You have different stages of embryo. Once a stage will come where the embryo will come and get implanted into the inner wall, or basically this particular wall, that uterine wall that you see, which is known as endometrium. Now once it gets implanted, it will undergo further division, and slowly the embryo and the human body together will form a next layer that is over here, which is known as placenta. It will something else which is known as placenta, and this placenta will be that something that will provide the further nourishment to the fetus. Okay, so initially endometrium will be that something that provides nourishment, but obviously the embryo is growing into a fetus, it needs more nourishment, so obviously this endometrium is not enough. So what do? The embryo, the cells of the embryo, certain cells, and also the uterine wall together contributes to making another tissue which is known as placenta. And this placenta will be giving rise to what? Basically will be helping in providing nourishment. Cool? So how do you frame this? Fertilization. Sperm fuses with an ovum in the oviduct to form a zygote. Then implantation happens. The zygote undergoes cleavage to form an embryo which implants in the uterine wall. Development. The embryo differentiates into specialized tissues and organs and eventually becomes a fetus. The role of the placenta. So they have not mentioned about the placenta being formed over here. They just directly spoke about development, but you can say that basically placenta is being formed and hence further development. Placenta formation and further development. We can say placenta formation and further development happens. Now role of the placenta is what? It facilitates nutrient, oxygen and waste exchange between the mother and the fetus, and apart from that it produces hormones like progesterone to support the pregnancy. What all does it do? So there is a role of placenta. What does it do? Basically it helps in the transport of gases and everything that is there between the mother and the child. Okay, and apart from that, okay, the baby wants the oxygen, okay, so that will be passed on. The baby does not want carbon dioxide, that will be removed. The waste which is there, that also will be removed. Apart from that, the placenta is also something that is going to release a hormone, progesterone and something like that, and this progesterone will help in maintaining the pregnancy, supporting the pregnancy. It ensures that the layer is intact and everything is fine. So placenta releases not just progesterone, but there are other hormones also being released, but it's just said because you are in 10th grade. Yeah, so first thing, it is helping in exchange of gases and for removal of waste materials, or you can put in 2 points: exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide. Second point, it helps in what? Removal of the waste. Apart from that, it produces hormones also like progesterone, which helps in supporting what? Pregnancy. Cool? Yes. Now section D, which is 5-marker question. You have A and B. Do you have any other thing? No. Yes, A and B. Chalo. Distinguish between hormonal coordination in plants and animals. Distinguish between hormonal coordination in plants and in animals. So in plants, do they have any glands for secretion of hormones? My dear children, have you heard about any glands? No. You might have heard about hormones, auxin, gibberellin, cytokinin and everything, but there are no glands. But when you talk about animals, do they have glands? Yes, they definitely have endocrine glands. For example, testis, ovary is there, pituitary is there, hypothalamus is there, thyroid is there. You have glands which are going to produce a lot of things in the case of animals. So that is one big difference that you have between animals as well and plants. So hormonal condition in plants use phytohormones, example auxin, for slow long-term responses. Animal use hormones secreted by endocrine glands for faster responses. So it will be kind of fast, whereas in the plants it might be slow as well. Now, which part of the brain is responsible for intelligence? For intelligence, my dear children, our major part of the brain, okay, it is cerebrum. Okay, what do you call it? Cerebrum. So we have forebrain, hindbrain and midbrain. In the forebrain, we have almost few parts. Okay, I'll name a few. One is cerebrum. There is thalamus, there is hypothalamus and stuff like that. Cool. Now cerebrum is the largest part of our brain which is there. The coily thing that you see is cerebrum. And cerebrum is the major thinking part of our brain. It is responsible for intelligence and everything. So I'll say this is cerebrum. When you're talking about riding a bicycle, while riding a bicycle, the thing that we need the most is balance. And balance is maintained by the next biggest part of our brain, which is cerebellum. It is not in our forebrain, it is there in our hindbrain. Okay, not in our midbrain also, it is there in our hindbrain. So the large part over here, okay, there is again a big thing like this, not small, big thing. I'm not making it contradictory for you, but just understand, suppose it's a brain over here. You might have seen that there might be something like this over here, and then there is a stem like thing. So this thing that you see over here, this is the cerebellum. This is a part of our hindbrain. So how do I remember it? LL. over here it just stays like this. So this is for the posture. For riding a bicycle, you need to maintain a correct posture, and that is maintained by cerebellum. Now vomiting is not under our control. It's an involuntary action. Okay, it is an involuntary action, and is controlled by another part of our hindbrain, which is known as this thing, which is known as medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata. Okay, this is a part of our hindbrain. Now medulla oblongata is also responsible for your heart rate and all the things, okay, blood pressure, everything which is out there. Medulla oblongata is a very, very important part of your brain. Okay, if suppose someone hits the medulla oblongata, you are gonna die. Right over there. So cerebellum, medulla oblongata, very, very important. Okay, talking about controlling hunger. Now hunger, thirst, sex drive, everything is physiological factors, something that is physiological needs, my dear children, and it is controlled by a part of your forebrain, which is hypothalamus. Which is what? Hypothalamus. I told you your forebrain has different parts: cerebrum, thalamus, hypothalamus. So hypothalamus is the one that is responsible for your physiological functions like your food and hunger and thirst and all the things out there, sleep cycle, everything. Okay, so hypothalamus is kind of really, really important over there. Now, how is the brain and the spinal cord protected against mechanical injuries? How do you think it will be protected against the mechanical injuries, my dear children? So brain is supported by skull, or what do you call it as? You call it as cranium, my dear children. Skull is also known as cranium. It's a bony skeleton that you have to protect your brain. Apart from that, there are few layers, okay, which will be protecting your brain, and they are known as meninges. Okay, what do you call them? You call it meninges, which is there. Apart from that, okay, between the meninges and the cranium, so your brain is supported by certain tissues, which is meninges, and then you have the cranium. In between that, you have certain space in which there is a fluid, which is known as cerebrospinal fluid, which is known as cerebrospinal fluid, my dear children. Okay, so that thing is also there, and what it does is that it helps in reduction of the friction which is there, and also make sure it is not getting, anything is not directly affecting your brain over there if you have some injury and things like that. Cool. Now for spinal cord, you might have heard about vertebral column. So we have a long thing which is known as vertebral column, my dear children, which supports your whole spinal cord, which you can feel also if you touch at the back. So those are things which is really important for the protection against any mechanical injuries. Can we read this? Yes. So hormonal coordination, I told you, brain function, intelligence, cerebrum, riding a bicycle, cerebellum, vomiting, medulla oblongata, hunger control, hypothalamus. For protection, cranium and vertebral column provide structural protection, whereas meninges and cerebrospinal cushion against the mechanical injuries when you're talking about the brain. Okay, this is for the brain. Cool. Now, next part of the question. What are tropic movements? Give an example for plant hormone which inhibits growth. First thing, what are tropic movements? Let me explain you that first. Tropic movements as in whenever the stimulus, for example, sun is the stimulus. Okay, sun is providing light. So, stimulus is there, and the response to this is in direction with the stimulus. For example, sunflower is there. Sunflower will be moving towards the direction of the sun. Okay, so over here you see the stimulus is there, response is there. So this is a directional movement. One thing is like that. Suppose another example, sun is there, the shoot grows upwards towards the sun, but what about the root? Root will go downwards. So it is moving opposite, but again it is directional. It is moving opposite to direction, right? Opposite to the exact direction of the sun. So this is known as negative phototropism. Negative as in it is moving away, phototropism as in it's basically related to the light. It's the movement related to light. Now positive phototropism is shown by the shoot, which is moving towards the light. So positively it is moving towards it, which is why it is known as positive phototropism. So what are tropic movements, my dear children? Tropic movements are where the direction of the stimulus has something to do with the direction of the response as well, or the basically direction of the response is in the direction of the stimulus. I will write direction of the response, that is movement for suppose, is in sync with the direction of the stimulus. Cool. Now give an example of a plant hormone which inhibits growth, which does not allow growth to happen. So you have two hormones which does that. One is abscisic acid and the other one is ethylene. There are two growth inhibitor hormones in the case of plants. One is abscisic acid, ABA, and the other one is ethylene. So you can write either of them. Now promotes cell division. So promote cell division is that means you're talking about a growth promoting hormone. Cell division means obviously when the cells are going to divide, the plant is itself going to grow, right? So cytokinin is a one that helps in cell division. Cytokinin, cell division. So cytokinin is a hormone that helps in cell division, and apart from this you have auxin and gibberellin, which is also growth promoters, but they are not directly involved in cell division. Cytokinin is the one that is explaining it, that is involved in cell division. Now explain the directional movement of a tendril in a pea plant in response to touch. Name the hormone responsible for this movement. So whenever you are asked about this question, my dear children, you have to draw and you have to explain. So suppose this is a tendril. Tendril comes in contact with the support. This is the support. You have auxin hormone throughout. What is this, my dear children? This is auxin. This is your tendril. And this is your support. So what happens is that basically whenever the auxin comes in contact with the support, with the plant that comes in contact with the support, the auxin which is over there, it will be moving through a direction where the support is not there. So all the auxin will be moving in this direction. So it is up here. The auxin is up here. You have the support up here. Now, when the auxin is up here, what it does is that it will cause cell elongation. Now, auxin is only in one side, and in one side only it is going to elongate the cells. So now you only think the cell which is there, one side will be like this, whereas the cells which are there over here will be still small because there is no much auxin over there. So, don't you think the auxin is going to cause cell elongation? And this will not be regular cell elongation that is seen. Okay, this is not the regular cell elongation that would be seen. So this is how it happens, and slowly it will be curving around. So what is the hormone which plays a major role? It is auxin, and you have to draw it and you have to explain it. Cool? How to write it? Let's see. So tropic movements are directional growth responses in plants towards or away from the external stimuli such as light, gravity, water or touch. So that is how we explain. It is directional growth response. Why growth? Because when I say the shoot is moving towards the sun, obviously it is growing. The root is going towards the ground, obviously it is growing over there. So it is directional growth responses in the plants towards or away. It can be positive or negative from the external stimuli, which is light, gravity, water and touch. Now hormone inhibiting growth is abscisic acid, promoting cell division is cytokinin. Now tendrils and plants show thigmotropism, my dear children. Okay, it is what? Tropical movement where touch is involved. The support is providing a touch over there, right? So that is a stimulus, and in response to this particular stimulus, it is growing towards it, right? So tendrils in the plant show thigmotropism, positive thigmotropism and directional growth response to touch. When a tendril touches a support, the cells on the opposite side elongate more than the cells on the side of contact. Cell on the opposite side will elongate. Why? Because it has more amount of auxin, causing the tendrils to curl around. So the hormones are responsible for this is what? Auxin. So you can explain in point one by one. When a tendril touches a support, what happens? The auxin will be diffusing to the side where it is not in contact with the support. Now this will cause uneven cell elongation. Use this term, uneven cell elongation. This will cause uneven cell elongation, which is why the other part will be moving. What say? It will be growing. Cool? Will you be able to do that? That's how you have to answer, and then it will be curling upon. Now, section E, last 4-marker question that we have, and then we are done with sample paper 9. So, which of the cut pieces of the two planaria could regenerate to form a complete organism? So, you have planaria cut like this into L, M and N, and you have planaria cut like this into O and P. What do you think? Which of the two planaria, what pieces would be going into a complete organism? I will say all of them. Why? Because planaria's body have a lot of regenerative cells, my dear children. They have what? A lot of regenerative cell. And what do you mean by that? Basically, this regenerative cell has the ability to give rise to a whole organism. Cool. So just understand that. Now give an example of another organism which follows the same mode of reproduction as planaria. So if you are asked about another organism which can do like planaria itself, you have a plant which is Spirogyra. You have a plant which is Spirogyra. If you cut it into fragments, it is already in the fragment stage, okay. It is like a ribbon shaped thingy. It is in small fragments. If you cut the fragment, and what happens, this fragment will be able to grow back. So example is what? Spirogyra. You can talk about that. How have they explained? Let me see that. So all cut pieces are capable of regenerating into a complete organism. This is because planaria has high regenerative ability due to specialized stem cells called neoblast, which enables them to form the missing body parts. So instead of mentioning neoblast, since it is not there in your NCERT, you can just say that they have specialized stem cells or regenerative cells, okay, or regenerative cells. That will be more than enough. Now an example of another organism that follows regeneration is Hydra. But Hydra is not quite really good at it, but okay. Hydra can regenerate its entire body from small fragments due to regenerative cells. As I said, Hydra has regenerative cells which allows it to form buds. They can also do a little bit of regeneration, but I'll say for you to be staying safe, you can mention Spirogyra. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of development in regeneration? What do you mean by development in regeneration? So in regeneration, development refers to the process by which specialized cells which are there, they proliferate, as in they are going to increase a number, and after increasing a number, they are going to differentiate as in they are going to have a specific task to do. Okay, for example, it's a Hydra, so it will go form the tentacles over there, so it has a specific function to do, and then later it will organize and things like that, and then later it will form a whole missing and damaged part of the organism which is there. So this involves proliferation, differentiation and organization. Growth and division of the cells is proliferation. Differentiation means cells specialize to form specific functions. I will say that I'll do this. Organization means cells basically arrange to restore the whole structure and the functionality. Okay. Now there's a question that is what differentiate between regeneration and fragmentation. Now regeneration, according to your NCERT, is not a method of reproduction, my dear children. Regeneration is basically just a procedure by which an organism is able to make its body part. Okay, make its body part. But suppose this is a planaria and it was cut like this. Now it is able to make a whole new planaria like this. So initially the part from you cut from, okay, suppose this was the planaria. Initially you cut this and now you got this. Now what happens is that this guy will be making up this part and this guy will be making up the down part over here. So aren't you giving rise to more planaria? Yes. So can I say this? It is anyway reproducing but not exactly reproducing? Yes. So rather than to not mix it up, I'll rather say regeneration is the process by which an organism is able to build the missing parts of the body. Okay. Whereas when you talk about fragmentation is a process which is done by organism. It is not this regeneration is done, for example, I somehow cut the planaria, it is able to do that. Now that is not happening very naturally. Get it? It is not getting cut naturally. But when you talk about fragmentation, it is a mode of reproduction, my dear children. Where the Spirogyra that you see over here, it will divide itself into parts and this part is going to go into different parts. It is going to form different parts through regeneration. Okay. So I'll say regeneration, it refers to the process by which specialized cells repair or regrow missing parts of an organism, example planaria. It is primarily a repair mechanism but can result in new individuals in some cases. That is why I'll say it is not a mode of reproduction. But when you talk about fragmentation, it forms asexual reproduction where the body of an organism is split into two or more parts. So Spirogyra is there, it will cut its body into different fragments, my dear children, and these fragments will be growing into new individuals. It is purely a mode of reproduction, unlike regeneration, which is also involved in repair. So that can be just a repair, this can be a whole thing. Get it? Works. So this is how you have to answer. I know this is kind of confusing, regeneration, fragmentation and stuff like that, but let's stick to our NCERT. That will be much safer option for us. So that is why we are recommending you to read your NCERT. Yeah. So that's all. Okay. Okay, so with this we have finished sample paper 9, and if you like the video, do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and also put down your doubts in the comment section. We'll surely solve it all. Yeah, so bye bye, take care.